Welcome back to Pack the Rock Podcast, and for the final time this season, I've been your host, Carlo Barone, joined by Max Parker and Evan Gerike of the Hoosier Network. Guys, last podcast, season's over. It's been up and down ride, to say the least.
It has. It's
mostly down.
Yeah, mostly down. But it's been a joy and a pleasure working with you guys this season. I've had a good time.
It has been fun. I've enjoyed it as well, even though the team might have not had their best performances. Thought it was still fun and definitely learned a lot. So, obviously, last 2 weeks of the season, we didn't do a podcast last week because we were on Thanksgiving break. They beat Michigan State in the double overtime thriller, 39-31. That game was wild, to say the least.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my favorite games this season to go to. And then they dropped the last game to Purdue, 30-16. Purdue goes to the Big Ten Championship and is going to play this weekend. IU goes home, and so do some of their players.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that more later, but been a wild 2 weeks. Some ups, a lot more downs. What are you guys' final thoughts on the last stretch of the season?
Well, the final thought is that it seems like Indiana found something that worked, and that something was Dexter Williams. Really took over the game against Michigan State and opened up their offense in a way that we haven't seen the offense work all season. And even though he only threw for one completion in regulation, you could just tell that Michigan State struggled with him as at quarterback because he opened up the run game so much. Where, okay, he could be throwing, but also he could be scrambling. He could be handing it off to Jalen Lucas or Josh Henderson and Sean Shivers, or just holding it himself. And that created a whole new dynamic for the offense that we started to see at the beginning of the Purdue game as well. Specifically, you could just see the defense freeze when Dexter Williams scrambled on that option that ended up with a 71-yard Jalen Lucas touchdown run, because you can't just go for Jalen Lucas because, well, Dexter Williams can pull and run for 15 yards himself. We saw him go for 34 for a touchdown against Michigan State. And that was something that finally seemed like Indiana unlocked some potential that they were really missing for most of the season. And obviously Dexter Williams going down, we still don't know what the injury is or what the severity of it is, but at least it gives Indiana an idea that, okay, they can't, recruit in the portal to upgrade this offensive line. They don't have the guys on the team to upgrade it. But if they go for a mobile quarterback and base their offense around that, maybe they can have some success going forward.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big thing. I was just, as you mentioned that, trying to find the exact quote. I couldn't find it. But I mean, the one thing that is a little concerning about that is that it took that long to realize, were you not watching Michael Penix all of his career here or at Washington? We had that, and looks like it's working.
Mm-hmm.
And Dexter Williams was practicing, so I don't know, but I think that's definitely a good realization. It better late than never. I think that last Michigan State win was a big one, and it would have been even bigger if they could have beaten Purdue. But even taking one of those, you go from doubling your Big Ten wins. Now you go from doubling your season win total. From last year. No, it's not a pretty record at 4-8, but it's a heck of a lot better than 2-10. And I mean, you got a decent win over an Illinois team, and you beat a Big Ten East team. And I mean, you went to the wire with some other Big Ten East teams. This season could have very well ended up being a bowl year.
It probably should have.
Yeah, it probably should have. Which actually, I think if we look back at the kind of narratives entering the year, I think a lot of people would have absolutely taken that. And none of us were confidently saying at the beginning of the year, yeah, this should be a bowl year. I think the expectations were maybe one or two more wins, and they ended up getting two. So obviously that's the very ultimate positive side. I think the negatives absolutely outweigh the positives. This team has so much work to do in the offseason, and it's just miles away from where they were at the end of 2020.
Yeah, good point. They have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I can't believe that they have dropped off this much just in 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly mind-blowing, but there have been a lot of injuries to key guys that Tom Allen talked about after the last game, both the last 2 years. Injuries definitely haven't been on their side, but like everyone else, every team has injuries, and you kind of have to move on and have guys step up. Those are usually the teams that go pretty far.
Although, to be fair, most teams don't have 8 season-ending injuries to their quarterbacks. I mean, that has really hurt. Obviously,
absolutely.
Michael
Absolutely.
Penix every year taking the hit or the ACLs
Jack
or
Tuttle
whatever.
the last two as
Jack
well.
Tuttle and really, you talked about Michael Penix. Michael Penix wasn't a dual threat quarterback, but he was mobile. He would move in the pocket, and Jack Tuttle came in against Penn State, and we saw that out of him. Like he was moving really well. Then of course he gets injured and goes down. Then you're scrambling to find something else again. But I mean, Connor Bazelak he was such a pocket passer, and that never worked for this offense. And it really makes you wonder, would Indiana have made a bowl game even if it was had a different quarterback?
Yeah. I mean, I also think that's a great point. Injuries, not just to the quarterbacks, but you have Cam Jones, who is shaping up to have a really, really special season for Indiana. And that's just been the case for a few years now. I mean, Tywan Mullen missed a ton of time last year. DJ Matthews, who was shaping up to be a big player with Penix under center, that was supposed to be a big connection as well. I mean, you forget because it was the first game of the year, Bedford going out. I mean, that could have been a huge difference having him at the line. Now, sure, there are 4 other positions on the line that didn't play great at all. But, I mean, having one more lineman who is skilled can make a big difference. So, I mean, sure, they have not gotten the luck of the draw in terms of injuries and a few other things. But, again, that's part of the game. Sure, it might not be part of the game for everyone to get that many injuries, but you got to figure out how to deal with it. And that Indiana just has not been able to adapt to that.
It'll be interesting to watch. I don't think that the athletic department has to release a statement. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they have to release a statement on the exact injury that Dexter Williams has once they figure it out
No, we probably won't
So-
hear until
next year.
they might
Spring,
release
maybe?
something depending on, I guess, what it is and if it's not that bad. But I would be surprised if we heard anything before spring practice.
They said, I don't know if they're going to identify it. I'm sure you guys saw, but for those who didn't see, they said it's a knee injury, but not an ACL. So,
I also, to be honest, I haven't gone back and watched it to see how bad it was. Everyone keeps telling me that it looks really bad. But they had kind of showed one replay when we were in the press box, and it was really hard to see. So I haven't seen exactly what it looked like, but from what I keep hearing, it sounds like it's a pretty serious knee issue. Or
I mean,
something. And obviously just putting the air cast on is never a good sign.
yeah, I mean, I was doing student radio, and just from the moment, just getting I saw that moment where he was going left, he tried to cut, and he just no one even touched him. He just kind of curled down to the ground.
That was tough to watch.
Yeah, it was my heart just dropped because, especially with guys who have had that happen before. Tom Allen talked about in one of the press conferences there are all blending together at the end of the season. But at some point this year, he was like, I didn't even know when he first tore his ACL in practice. I heard about it, and I was like, I guess he may have seen the injury, but was like, wait, that was a torn ACL. But this time I think I think everyone knew that was not going to be pretty. And it had a similar effect as when McFadden got tossed out of the game last year against Cincinnati. This team had maybe a little bit less. This time it was more scheme related that had the big change because it went from, I was saying on the broadcast, I was like, this offense is exciting. It's very strange, but I'm for the first time all year, I'm watching this offense and I'm like, what are they going to draw up next? And then all of a sudden Williams goes out and I'm like, okay, screen, run.
Right back to weeks 1 through 9.
Yeah, and it's just terrible to watch.
And to be fair to Bazelak, he didn't play very bad coming in Williams's place. 24, 42, 57%, not great. Had 201 yards. Again, not great. But he also, without Camper and really DJ Matthews, we didn't really see him playing receiver at the end of the season. He didn't really have anyone else to kind of go to.
Yeah.
Emery Simmons had some big catches, but I mean, I've seen a lot on Twitter of people being glad he's gone, but it's really not his fault what happened
not
this
at
year.
all.
And
Not at
you know,
all.
I hope he goes somewhere where they have an offensive line that can protect him, and he has a much better season, because he showed a lot of arm talent, but just the way he plays, so many times you just have to give up on the play because nothing was ever going to come out of it, and that's really hurtful when you can't pick up just a couple yards on a first down or whatever, and But like you said, it was just exciting to watch Dexter Williams because he could make things happen, and it was just a shame to see that kind of Indiana kind of lose that. And once kind of Bazelak came in, it just felt like an entirely different team. That, I mean, even when they were up 7-3, it felt like Indiana was going to lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, it just didn't seem like with the personnel they had, they didn't know what to do with a pocket passer. Like, it was just, I don't know. It's like, what do you? I don't know. And I don't have the answers, obviously. That's why I'm covering the team, and
So
I don't know. I don't know, man.
Head coach Max Parker.
Oh, God.
Future head coach.
Yeah. Sign me up.
So
yeah, I've heard your fantasy league is going great there, Max. So.
Oh yeah, with all your draft picks too.
Whatever, guys. I don't want to talk about it.
So, Devon Matthews just declared to go to the NFL draft.
So did Sean
correct?
Shivers
And
as
Sean
well.
Shivers.
Yeah, I missed that one originally, but I saw that
Connor
today.
Bazelak is going to transfer.
Jack Tuttle's transferring.
Jack
Gremmel's transferring.
Oh wow.
Charles Campbell is transferring. I haven't seen
saw
any other
that.
transfers yet, but I'm all but. Well, there's going to be more. I can 100% say there will be more. I'm also pretty certain we're going to see some more big names enter the portal.
Were you guys surprised by any of these first
No.
ones? Let's go to the first ones first. First ones.
I was a little more surprised. Well, Sean Shivers is out of eligibility, so I'm not surprised to see him declare for the draft because what else is he going to do?
I mean, any of the guys declaring, I wasn't really surprised by them.
I was a little surprised by Devon Matthews. I don't actually know if he had eligibility. I don't think he did have eligibility.
I don't
so I
think
guess
so.
that makes
I think
sense.
that was his last year. Yeah.
I would be surprised if anyone at IU who has eligibility left declares for the draft, just because
Absolutely.
there wasn't anyone that stood out on this team that if I was the GM of the Tennessee Titans would be like, oh, I'm going to draft this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the transfers, I mentioned before the pod, I could have seen Connor Bazelak sticking around and like accepting a role as a backup, just as a guy who kind of could come in and play, but not surprised to see him transfer. Obviously, we heard about Tuttle months ago, so that wasn't a surprise. Grant Gremmel, we saw it with Davian Irvin Poindexter, where you were a walk-on here, and now he's got Big Ten experience, and okay, maybe go transfer and try to make something at a G5 school. And Charles Campbell as well. I mean, he really declined in productivity at IU. He was so good in 2020, and he wasn't great this year. And I guess it's just time for a change of scenery and something different. And all those guys, you can say the same thing, where it's like they just need something new, and you just kind of have to wish the best to them.
I think the big question mark in terms of transferring is going to be a lot of the high-level guys who came in.
You guys think Desan's on this team next year?
I think I'd be surprised.
I think Travell Mullen will stay.
Did they redshirt him? I don't ever remember seeing him on the field.
I don't think he ever played. Omar Cooper, they redshirted. Nick James may have redshirted.
He had a little bit of time, but
I don't really know. Philip Dunham got a lot of play time.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting, kind of which guys stay along. And I think the thing that's a little concerning is they don't. I mean, sure, college football is a little weird in the sense with recruiting, you don't necessarily see the guys. Like a lot of it's rare. That's why Desan McCullough at the beginning of the season, when he was playing out of his mind, was getting so much talk because you don't necessarily see these 5-star, 4-star top guys coming onto the field and making a massive impact.
Right away, yeah.
There are a bunch of guys for Ohio State who, like, I love looking at the recruiting rankings, and you kind of look at them, they're like, oh my God, look at these top 10 guys that they got, and then you don't hear about him for I don't know how to say his last name, but that JT, like, Tuamalo guy, he was number 1, like, 2 years ago, I think, and then I just heard about him this year, like, he's just blowing up the game all of a sudden. And so maybe some of the guys from this past recruiting class start working out. Maybe some of the guys from the 2021 recruiting class. But, like, the 2023 recruiting class right now is not great at all. They don't have a 4-star. They just have a bunch of 3-stars, and none of them higher than 538 nationally. So,
and that's just back to where Indiana has been historically. It's a second thought program where it's like, oh, here's my one of maybe 2 Power 5 offers, and we'll go to Indiana, and which is surprising because Tom Allen has been so good in the recruiting game. And I don't know if part of that is they're looking more towards the portal now, which is probably going to become, pretty common. And he's done pretty well for himself in the portal. But guys have, over the last 4 years, guys have wanted to play for Tom Allen. They didn't really lose anyone last year, despite that 2-10 season, because guys wanted to play for Tom Allen. And now it feels like things are changing, whether he's losing the locker room or the culture is shifting or whatever. Someone asked, I'm trying to think of who was at the post-game press conference in the scrum on Saturday. Aaron Casey, I think. And someone asked him, like, if the culture's changed. And it was kind of a hesitant answer and kind of a non-answer about that, which is definitely not a great sign.
I think another thing that's interesting is everyone has talked about, like, those who are talking about recruiting, that Florida connection. I mean, out of the 22 guys, well, first of all, the sheer number, there were 22 freshman targets or freshman commits, non-transfer, 22 people that weren't transfers committed to IU and came to IU. Of those, 7 were Florida natives. Right now in the 2023 class, there are only 9, and only 2 of them are from Florida. So I'm sure there are going to be more guys who commit over the summer, and a lot of these guys, I would imagine, came for spring ball or are enrolling early for spring ball. But I think what I'm rambling a lot. What I'm trying to say is there is no clear path right now for Indiana to jump right into bowl eligibility next year.
I think it's got to. Tom Allen's just got to change schematically what he's doing. And he said that in the press conference. He's going to get a more mobile, quarterback-oriented offense. It really just falls on if Dexter Williams is able to come back.
And if he comes back here.
Yeah. If not, he's going to have to recruit like that. But even a freshman quarterback jumping right in would not.
And they'd have to get a transfer.
Yeah, it would have to either be a transfer or it's got to be Dexter, I think, if you're talking about getting back to bowl eligibility.
Yeah.
Should I ask the question? Where is Tom Allen's future with this program?
Oh, that's my question.
Sorry, Carlo.
No, you're good.
Carlo, do you want to ask it?
No, I've already asked it like 20 times this year.
There's some talk about, like, everyone on Twitter has been mentioning, like, Liberty. He's a name for the Liberty head coaching job. I don't think he goes anywhere this offseason. And I think a lot of it rides on next year. Because I still think there's buy-in.
Yeah.
From some guys.
I've like you said, Carlo, we've talked about this question I don't know how many times, both on the podcast and when I've come on talk about IU football with other people and just in our drives to stadiums. And I said Tom Allen wasn't going to be on the hot seat this year. I think going into next season, though, he will be. I think you have to prove something. I mean, week 1, you start with Ohio State, and that's a really tough start to the season.
That's tough.
And probably is not gonna go very well. But also the offseason as well is now part of your job is like, if he has a bad offseason, he could be on the hot seat because you can lose so many players and you have to bring in guys to fill in those holes. So how Tom Allen brings in guys out of the portal is going to be a massive part of that. But I mean, you have to. I don't know if a 4-8 season again next year does it. I don't know if if they're going to be much better than that. But And what I can really see is he stays with Indiana another year because he's talked about how much he loves his job and how much he loves Indiana. And then not getting fired next year, but taking a job like a Liberty or a USF when something like that opens next year as kind of a parachute job where Indiana's like, Tom, we've got to make a change. And he's like, all right, I'll get out.
Yeah.
And kind of save everyone here. Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they make a deal where Tom Allen doesn't have to pay. I think he has to pay back like half his contract if he leaves before it ends. So maybe he just doesn't have to do that. And it's just kind of like, let's mutually part and make this as easy as we can. Yeah. But I think that would be next season. But then again, if they start, what are their non-conference games next year? They have Akron, Indiana State, and
might be a Ball State year again.
I don't think it's Ball State.
While you look that up, I think aside from the team itself, I think the university also needs to make some moves.
Louisville.
This has definitely been a conversation on socials as well. This team needs to make an investment in terms of NIL because a lot of Big Ten teams are moving that way and putting together collectives and everything. A lot of that here, at least from what I've seen on social media, has been player-led, like players coming together to create a collective. And these people, I think if you want to become a draw to players, you need to have this offering now. And it can't just be like, oh, we put another end zone on the stadium, or we got this coach, or we did this. These players now need to see that, hey, I can go here and make some money.
Yeah, Zach Osterman with the Indy Star took some heat for a story he wrote, basically being like, "Well, you've got to put your money where your mouth is." To the fans, essentially, it's like you can complain about Indiana, but like they need outside help now just because of the way things are.
Yeah,
and he's right. Like you can't just rely on the university needs to invest as well, just from a standpoint of facilities and making the fan experience better on that end, but like. Fans have to, if you want to complain about Indiana football being bad, you have a way to help make it better.
Yeah.
And I just don't see that happening here because it is a basketball school.
Yeah.
Fans will always invest in basketball over football, especially right now. 2 years ago, football team was good, basketball team wasn't. It might have been different. Now the basketball team is really good again. The football team is bottom of the barrel. Why would anyone want to help out the basketball or the football team when you have a team like the Mike Woodson's basketball team to kind of really help boost?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need a reason for fans to be excited too. I don't think the marketing has been great lately. I don't know. I feel like the only big marketing move was at the beginning of Thanksgiving break saying, hey, students can get in free for this game. Like at this point, it's like, okay, cool. Like I'm going to stay home, and it's tough to figure out ways to do that when the team is putting up a 4-8 season, and even 6-6. It's tough to get excited for a 6-6 football team, but I think there needs to be more buy-in marketing wise in terms of just trying to get it started. I do think it starts with the students. You need the students to be excited to make the game day atmosphere better. I mean, every time the kickoff happened, there was a Purdue or IU sucks chant.
That was bad.
You can't have that. You can't have that
at home.
That's like a Northwestern atmosphere.
Yeah, there was a lot of people at the game, but there was a lot of Purdue people there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was arguably a very much bigger game for them though, because they'd never been in the Big Ten championship game. Now they're playing for it.
True.
So, I mean, we've kind of already hit most of the questions here. You guys have any final thoughts? Anything for next year? I guess you guys both won't be here, but I guess you guys know the direction of the program.
Yeah.
Well, you guys know what's going on.
This will be my first time, and I've covered this team for 3 years now. This will be the first time next year where I can just kind of watch as a fan and complain on Twitter like everyone else.
Yeah.
So all of you guys who love to be in my mentions, maybe I'll be there with you shortly. Although I guess there's a chance that I'll still be here in some capacity. Indiana just grabs me by the shirt collar and drags me back. So,
Are you previewing something?
Fifth year.
no, I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Unless if someone is wants to offer me something.
Yeah, I mean, once I'm done, I might follow Indiana and Northwestern football again.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I've kind of put my Northwestern fandom aside for these 4 years while I've been here, which has been easy. 5 years, which has been easy because Northwestern's been terrible at both sports too. But I might get roped back in. Those cats have a way with my heart.
Those cats.
The cardiac cats. Okay.
Well, guys, this season's been pretty fun. I've learned a lot from both you guys about how to cover sports, and big time sports. This is my first time on a beat that I think was like pretty much like, I don't want to say the premier beat, but like one of the that got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
In my sporting career here at IU. So I just want to thank you guys for all the lessons and stuff that you guys put on to me, because it means a lot. It's been fun. It's been hard sometimes, but you guys kept me going, and pretty successful fall in my personal reporting department. Maybe not for the IU football team.
Yes.
I definitely won this fall, so I want to say thank you guys for.
Speaking of
the
winning,
help.
Carlo, you actually did win
Oh, that's right.
in
Oh my
terms of record
gosh.
predictions.
Let's go.
Go Carlo.
We both finished 9-3.
Yeah,
And
then,
Max, we did our predictions off camera, obviously, because we had the podcast last week. Max predicted that Indiana was going to win by 1, trying to be bold to win the competition. Didn't happen.
Am I 9-3?
I think you're
Now
8
you're
and
8
4.
I'm
and
8-4.
4.
Yeah, 'cause
Still bowl eligible.
We were all tied going into the last week because Max was the only one who picked Indiana to beat Michigan State. So we decided whoever guesses the closest score would be the overall winner, and Carlo's score was closer than mine. I think I guessed a 3-point game, and yours was a 10-point
like
game.
9-8, something like that.
Yeah,
I'll have to
so
look, but-
Do you
Carlo-
think 8-4 is good enough to get me to the Music City Bowl?
I don't. I guess.
Sounds like a fun bowl to.
I mean,
go to.
you could go to whatever bowl you want. You just
The
have to buy a
Pinstripe
ticket.
Bowl?
Sure.
Nice. Nice.
Where even is the Pinstripe Bowl?
New York.
In Yankee Stadium.
Oh wait, this sounds fire.
Yeah, I really wanted to go there. I'm not gonna lie. That would have been a really cool bowl to cover.
Maybe we should just go to the Pinstripe Bowl and watch 2 7-5 or 8-4 teams duke it
There's
out.
also, I think there's a bowl game in Fenway
Atmosphere.
Park this year as well.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Let's use the HN funds.
Okay.
Do we have HN funds?
I mean, I used them last year, so I don't know. Maybe, probably not anymore.
We're talking HN funds. Maybe we should wrap it up.
Well, thank you guys once again. Thank you for tuning in to Pack the Rock podcast this season. IU obviously didn't have the best year, but you know that's why we have next year.
Yes.
There's
for the
always next year.
From the final time, I've been Carlo Barone, joined by Max Parker and Evan Gerike for the Hoosier Network. They will see you next season, but I probably will see you next season. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you
Maybe we
guys
can
later.
come on a sketch.